Hi guys and welcome back. Today is a very exciting day, at least it is for me. I get to show you guys what the cover of Nocturne looks like. This is the piece that's going on the cover of my Inktober art book for this year. But also, this is officially the day that the Kickstarter for Nocturne launches. Oh, I'm so excited to be able to release it, but a little bit about Kickstarter if you've never heard of it before. It's just a platform for me to be able to put up my project with a funding goal, and until we meet that goal, it won't be charged and it won't be able to be made. But once we reach that goal where people sign up and pledge and want the things that I'm offering, then it means that it's going to happen. I'll be able to publish the book and send it out to everybody in a couple of months, and it's a really exciting thing. This is what I've done with my Inktober books the last 2 years. If you were around, you might have heard a little bit about that. So this year, the book is actually going to be hardcover, which I'm really excited about, being able to have something that feels a little bit more tangible and real, and hopefully there's also a stretch goal, which means if we earn more than the funding to a certain degree, I have a whole chart over on my Kickstarter, but one of the stretch goals is metallic details on the cover. So hopefully it'll just be this really nice deluxe book this year. I also have lots of other exclusive art things that you can get on the Kickstarter. There's a special enamel pin called Of the Night, and I love making enamel pins, so I'm really excited to bring this one out. So I have artwork of that one. I also have a mock-up of a special print that I'll be releasing over on Kickstarter through that, and I can't wait to paint it after Inktober is over. I have the colors and the layout of it all mocked out digitally, so if you want to see what the plans for that print is over on my Kickstarter, it's over there. But yeah, there's stickers, there's the print that has special gold foiling that I'm going to be applying myself, gold leaf I should say. So yeah, and originals too. There's just a lot of special releases that are happening over on the Kickstarter with lots of different tiers so you can get what you're looking for. But yeah, I'm really excited to hopefully print this as a book. I always find so much satisfaction in taking a really large project and turning it into something that feels really real, and I can send it and I can give it to people, and it just feels really rewarding. And I love being able to seek out different kinds of experiences like that as an artist, where it just feels like I'm on the right path, you know. But anyways, I do have a link to the Kickstarter down in my description if you want to go check that out and look through the different reward tiers so you can see if there's anything that you want to have. But anyways, let's talk about this piece, about the cover, about some of the design choices that I made. So like I mentioned, my first 2 Inktober books, I just took a piece that I had done for the project in the middle of the book and I just pulled it out for the cover. For the first one, for Lumina, I think it worked really well. I really liked that piece anyways, but also that piece was the most random, I guess is maybe not the right word, but it was, where the pieces on the inside were not connected at all, and they were connected specifically by just the medium and the execution and the tools that I used, but the subject matter was just, as the days went by, whatever struck my fancy that day. But for last year, for Omen, it had a little bit of a story to it and a world, and there was continuity to it, but I didn't think about beforehand what I wanted for the cover. So ultimately I ended up choosing one of my favorite pieces, but one that didn't necessarily represent the overall story or world within it. So I felt like that was an element that I could have been a little bit more intentional with the design. So when this year came around, and I kind of defaulted to that same mindset where like I've said, I had all the sketches done before Inktober started, so I'm inking everything on the day of. So I'm still doing the Inktober project, but I was much prepared this time. Well, I have a sheet where I printed out all of the sketches, that way I could mark off my progress and make sure that I'm staying on track. Well, I pulled that out and I looked through it, and I was looking for a cover art, something that I thought would exemplify the overall feeling of Nocturne and the world that I was creating within it and the themes. And overall, I mean, I'm really happy with what's happening within the book. I feel much better about how cohesive they are and the fact that they are telling what I want them to tell. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they would be a good cover piece and that they would bring in all those elements and really showcase it in a way that I was happy with. And there was a couple that I felt like could be good options, but I ultimately felt like it was just time for me to design something specifically for the cover. So this one is actually going to be printed inside the book as well, so it's going to be on the cover and in the book. But I took a step back and I intentionally made it cover art. So some of the things that I wanted in the cover for Nocturne is that I wanted there to be a very impactful character. That's something that's always really important to me. I love doing character art and I love that connection between the viewer and the character. So I always have to tell myself not to always do these straight on shots, but there's something really powerful, I think, in being able to look just straight at this character looking right back at you. So I wanted to put that in the cover. I wanted a character that's just being there and interacting with us as the viewer. And I also wanted her to be a character that's going to be in another piece at the end of Nocturne, so that she feels like she is a character within this world. She has a purpose and a place. I honestly kind of see her a little bit as like a ruler or a queen type figure for the world that this takes place in. So being able to show her on the cover I thought was pretty fitting. I also wanted to make sure that there was representation of the moon, since the moon is a very common motif in my pieces. I put it in almost every single piece that goes into Inktober this year. So she definitely had to have a moon, and the spikes that are stabbing through her body, that's also an element that's in many of my pieces, and I wanted to carry that through over into the cover so that it has that same feeling to it, or it has this impactful character, but she also still has these afflictions almost. I also kind of secretly want her to be a bit of like a companion to my Skull King character that I did years ago. He's still probably my favorite piece I've ever done, and I've always wanted to do a Skull Queen to go along with it, and I think she's like that. I intended her to be like that. So I specifically referenced off of my Skull King piece to get a little bit of this skull kind of face look to her, where it's not like a full-on skull painted on top of her face, but I wanted hints of that kind of an element. So a little bit more of a hollow cheek and darkness around her eyes and her nose, and specifically showing her teeth on top of her lips and her cheeks a little bit too. So there were some elements like that if she looks familiar or looks like Skull King, that is definitely intentional. I also wanted her to have kind of this like spike crown thing that's inspired by his crown, but it's adapted a little bit more to her as a character, and it also fits a little bit better with the styling of how I draw the spikes themselves. So there's a little bit of a mirroring connection between those two. I also wanted to make sure that the overall value key for the cover piece really fit with the tone that I wanted to set inside of the book. So it's night themed. I wanted the cover to feel like she's in this dark atmosphere. So the space behind the character, I gave it a lot of ink texture, but also made sure that it still leaned on the darker side of the value scale. I gave her a really dark dress, and then towards the end I give it these little like stars or glitter points so that it has this like shimmering effect, but it's still really like this dark, rich kind of a color of a dress. I always gravitate towards pieces that overall have a darker value key, but then has really light spots, points in it, so that there's a lot of contrast to it, but it overall leans darker. And I wanted to be sure that since I'm designing the cover, that it fit that preference that I have, since I think the last two covers that I did were kind of more on the lighter scale, the lighter end of the scale of values. The little points of light in her dress, I actually organize them a little bit differently than how like I like to do the stars for the backgrounds of these, where they're really random, and I try to have a mixture of sizes of dots and where they're placed and everything. And I also like to, this is a side note because there's no stars in this one, but I like to imagine constellations and then design them out and draw them out in the skies. But anyways, for her dress, I wanted it to be a little bit more structured rather than random. So I did different size dots with different spacing, but basically along the ink lines of what I originally inked in for that back, almost cape-like part of her dress. And don't forget to go check out my Kickstarter for Nocturne. I'm really proud of this book and this project and the other things that are going into it, like the enamel pin and everything. So I would love for you to go check it out and see what I have over there. But yeah, that's about it for today. I do have the original of this painting up at my shop, so if you'd like to own the artwork for the cover of Nocturne, then that is up over there. And that's about it. So I'll be back on Saturday with another video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you then.